live. A very good evening. Welcome to, he checks the volume level. Welcome to the Mythical Ireland Library. It is time for Live Irish Myths. I don't know what time it is where you are. I suspect, am I right in saying that the US and Canadian viewers have sprung forward? There we go. Yeah, studio lighting isn't what it used to be. Can't get the staff these days. Welcome to Live Irish Myths. Welcome to the Mythical Ireland Library. I'm Anthony Murphy. For the next hour or hour and a half, we are going to be talking about the ancient past. It is episode number 317. We have been live streaming for almost 5 years. We began the series Live Irish Myths on the 12th of March in the year 2020. Sorry, I'm trying to adjust my chair. Again, can't get the staff these days. At the onset of the COVID lockdowns in Ireland, can't believe it's been 5 years. Said that last week. Really astonished at how fast time has flown by. Of course, for the first 6 months around that, we live streamed every day. And around episode 103, it was, we decided to go weekly instead of daily, as people began to get back to normal lives, as normal as could be after what was a rough time for many people. Anyway, if you're joining us, whether you're watching on the Facebook page or on the Mythical Ireland YouTube channel, please do feel free to join in the conversation. Share your dad jokes as well, because I mean they're an essential element, as you know, of these live streams. This evening we are going to be talking about Mythical Ireland, the book, which has just been reprinted. This is its 4th iteration, and it was first published in 2017. So my best-selling book by far, with Island of the Setting Sun a close second. So I'll tell you a little bit about that, and we'll do a bit of reading, and there'll be probably a few puns, one-liners and cheesy dad jokes along the way. A very good evening, first and foremost, to Elaine Dent-Lingenfelter, first to comment tonight. And she is saying hello to everyone and hopes all are well. Watching from a gorgeous weather day in central Texas, 23 Celsius. Well, that sounds very nice. That's like, as I always say, a summer day in Ireland. We've been having a spell of nice weather, by and large. Yesterday, sunshine and blue skies pretty much all day, and decent temperatures in the mid-teens. Today, the same, except for cooler. There's an easterly breeze now, which is for those of us living in the Boyne Valley and on the eastern fringe of Ireland, it's a little bit cooler. However, we're not complaining, because we didn't see a whole lot of the sun in January and February, so we're very glad to see it now as we rush towards spring equinox, which is in about 10 days' time. Don't forget, this week, for those of us in Western Europe and in the US and Canada, we'll be seeing on Friday, in the early hours of Friday morning for us, and late Thursday night, early Friday morning for the US and Canada, we'll be seeing an eclipse of the moon. And the moon is going to be going into eclipse as it is heading for the horizon here in Ireland, which should be an interesting sight. And followed by, there's a partial solar eclipse this month as well, but more of that maybe next week in advance of it. So hopefully some of you at least will get the opportunity to view that lunar eclipse that is taking place this week. Lily Shambles says, "Phew, glad you're on tonight. Hope you're okay." I'm grand. Thank you for asking, Lily. And welcome to the live stream. Welcome to the Mythical Ireland Library. Tuesday Thompson is wishing us all a happy Mythology Monday and many happy returns Tuesday. Michael Pike is saying, "Greetings, Anthony and the mighty Tuatha." Well, humble greetings to you, Michael. Also, always a pleasure to welcome you into the library. Rex Fortenberry is saying, "Howdy and good day. All the mighty Tuatha." A bit of a time warp today. Forgot about that. Just take a jump to the left. So I think Sunday, March the 9th. Yeah, okay. So you sprang forward yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, which means What did I say last week? I got totally confused about this. So if you were, say, in New York and you're normally 5 hours behind us, if you jump forward, so that would be your 3 p.m. You'll be at 4 p.m., which means you have to wait an hour. So are you an hour later than normal? I think I got that right, but who knows? Adina Sparks is here. Evening, Anthony and the Tuatha. It's a sunny 62F. And thankfully, wind-free day in New Mexico. Several days ago, we had winds at 45 miles per hour and gusts of over 75 miles per hour. Wow. Yeah. It was gusty this evening here, funnily enough. I'm not sure that the wind had been forecast. But anyway, Lily Shambles says, evening, I hope all are doing better than me. Flu/COVID with added chest infection. Yippee. Dear Anthony, please bring sane stories and plenty of dad jokes. Well, I'm not sure the stories will be all that sane. I can promise a few dad jokes. I hope you get well soon, Lily. Best wishes from all of us. Lexi Erickson, hello to Anthony, Tom, the Mighty Tuatha, and the Colorado connection. I'm home from the hospital and relaxing and doing PT as I listen. Well, glad to hear that you got home, Lexi. Hard to keep a good thing down, you know. And likewise, best wishes to you and your recovery. And am I right? Yes. I know it's somebody's birthday today. I think it's yours. Happy birthday, Lexi. 21 again, huh? And yeah, as I say, hard to keep a good thing down. So from all of us to you, a very happy birthday, and I hope you're enjoying your day. Michael Pike says 1 p.m. Northern California. Yeah, so it's normally 12 noon. Okay, but that's only going to last for 2 episodes because on Sunday, the whatever 2 weeks from the 9th is 23rd. Oh no, actually no, we're not springing forward until the 30th. Oh yeah, so it'll affect this episode, next week's, and the following week's. Yeah, okay, for 3 episodes then. But we'll spring forward at the end of the month, and then we'll be back to the usual time difference. Richard Burgess is saying, hello, everyone. Finally warming here in New York. About 16 Celsius today. Lovely stuff, Richard. Send a bit of it this way also. Wow, I don't know what the highs were yesterday. Yesterday was lovely. Really felt like spring was finally here in all its glory. Kathy May Dayo is in the house. Good day, Mr. Anthony and all the two. I hope you're all doing fantastic. Well, yes. I mean, I can't speak for the rest of them, but doing pretty good. Kathy May, I hope you're in good form as well. Yes, we have sprung forward, says Elaine. Rocio Mariana Lopez says, hi, Mighty Tuatha, here in Mexico. Puebla is 2 p.m. and 25 Celsius. Sending you our lovely sun. It's windy, and despite the heat, it's fresh. Well, it'll take the edge off the hot temperature, I suppose. Johnny Wilson says a big hello from Dallas, Texas. 2 degrees this morning, now 20. Wow, what a difference. What a difference a bit of sunshine makes, you know. Tyler Sizemore says it's 4 p.m. in Corbin in Kentucky. Sunny and 64 Fahrenheit. Wow. What is that in Celsius? That's 18 degrees. Nice. Yeah, that's decent. We'll take that. Welcome, Tyler. I'm not sure that we've seen you before, so you're very welcome to Live Irish Myths. Don't forget, if you're on YouTube, which you are, subscribe to the channel and get notified of future uploads and live streams. Barbara Murphy is saying hello to everyone from Tucson, Arizona, which is at a lovely 77 right now. Oh, that's nice. 25 Celsius. What time change, lol? Now we match California rather than Colorado. Oh, yeah. I think you were saying last week that Arizona doesn't actually change. Or is it Colorado? Or is it both? Wow. Fascinating stuff. There are parts of the world where the summertime thing just doesn't affect the clocks. Wow. Porrick Byrne is saying hello from Mount Mellick in the county of Laois. Hello, Porrick. Good evening to you. Welcome to the Mythical Ireland Library. Debbie Sheehy says, good evening, Anthony and the lovely Tuatha. Great to be joining you again tonight from sunny Dublin. Hang on a second. Wait. It's dark here in Tuatha. as in nighttime, as in the sun is below the horizon. Is it still sunny in Dublin? I know what you mean, Debbie. I know what you mean. But yes, it was a sunny day. And according to our local weather forecaster, Loud Weather, it's to be largely dry for the next 8 days as high pressure dominates. We like that. We'll take more of that. Britt Griffin is in the house saying, hello, folks. Might get above 0 tomorrow. Hope so. We have lots of snow to melt. Congrats on the reprint. Thank you, Britt. Wow. And again, it just goes to show the huge variance as you go towards more northerly latitudes, how there's such a huge fluctuation in the temperature. That's amazing. Anne Scott Doherty is saying hello to everyone. Hello, Anne, and hello to Bill as well. I'm trying to buy the book. Don't see it yet. It's been there for a while, actually. You could pre-order it. Should be in Books and Mythical Ireland, revised and expanded edition of Mythical Ireland, new 2025 edition. I'll share the link if anybody wants to get a signed copy. Thank you, Lexi. Or are you talking about Fornox? Just so all you need to do for Fornox is just buy the one that's there. It is the reprint. That's the only one I have now. The original print run is all sold out. So if you just order the Fornox monograph, you will get the new version. I'll share that as well, just in case anyone's looking for a copy of the Fornox book. Now, where was I? Tyler Sizemore getting a nice welcome from the Tuatha, as you would expect. I've loads to catch up. I'm after losing my place. Oh, really? There's a lot of comments. Okay, this is going to take a while. Oh, Jeannie Mackers. Wow. So I pasted in the links and went to the bottom of the comments. And now that I'm looking for the comments that I was on, I have to go back a long way. Greetings from a dairy farm in rural Galway, says Dr. Catherine. I don't know how to pronounce that. It's a Zapf. Middle of nowhere in Clare yesterday. It was gorgeous. Come here. It's nice to be in the middle of nowhere in Ireland. Definitely. They're the best places in Ireland. Deborah Gilbert is saying, bright and sunny day here in Connecticut. Finally warmer. Hello to all. Brilliant stuff, Deborah. Rossio, now that you mentioned Mr. Anthony, I have a dad joke that I recently heard. Why koalas are not considered bears? Because they don't have the qualifications. I like it. You're giving me fresh material. Nora Gaffney O'Connor is in the house. GAE of Golair, Kane Queen Wilchiv. You're all looking well. Lovely to be with you all. Well, Nora, it's been a while. I know that you popped in at the end of, I don't know, it was last week or the week before. But come here. It's great to see you. And I hope you're still swimming in the sea every day and that it's warming up for you nicely. Lily, we had 13 to 17 Celsius for the last week. Back to minus numbers and the threat of sleet at night for us this week. Yeah, it has cooled down here too. Catherine Cleary, great to be with you, Anthony, and the entire Tuatha from beautiful San Diego. Yes, indeed, all the way over there in California. And it's not, as I would normally say, almost 1:15 midday, because it's almost 1:15 for you. The time changes. Interesting, there's a lot of people still watching, so the hour hasn't really affected things too badly. Thank you. Barbara Murray, we knew this already. You did not spill the beans, because I got a notification on Facebook this morning saying Lexi Erickson's birthday is today. Do you want to wish her happy birthday? Which I duly did, of course. I was just trying to explain to a friend the amazing thing that you have done here with Mythical Ireland. Wow. Did you embellish things by talking about the wonderful dad jokes, the hilarious humor? It's okay. My life is an open book, says Lexi. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Lexi. Happy birthday to you. Alan Hoskins is saying, hi, Anthony, hi, everyone, and greetings from Ballina, Killaloe. Hope all are well. I've been absent for a few weeks, and it's great to be back. It is absolutely wonderful to have you back, Alan. Thank you for joining us and for saying hello. Yes, a lot of people commenting on the fact that it is an hour later, so I got that right, thank goodness. Cool breezy weather has held in Northern California. Not ready for summer heat. Not yet, anyway, but soon. Yes, Kathy is saying 1 p.m. in Newcastle in Washington. Yeah, lots of people saying happy birthday to Lexi, as you would expect. Judy McQueen is in the house. Hello, all. Hello, Judy. Welcome to the library. Helena Breen is here. Hello, Helena. Thank you for saying hello. And indeed, you are very welcome. Sláinte. Taras Jock. Fáilte Roth. Tyler Sizemore. I'm new and I'm catching up. I'm on the Crumb Dove episode. I love the Dullahan legend. Well, come here. It's brilliant. And sure, look, there's 316 previous episodes for you to watch. I mean, you could watch them back to back and spend several weeks catching up. But enjoy that, you know. Desiree Riley is here. Hello from Western Colorado. Beautiful sunny day here, 61 Fahrenheit. Hope everyone's doing well. All good here. Desiree, great for you to join us. We're always happy to see you in the house or in the library, as it were. And Tyler is grateful for the warm welcome and adds that he bought a little handgun from a guy named T-Rex over the weekend. He was a small arms dealer. Brilliant. Arizona does not change except for the Navajo Nation in our far north. Their nearest off-reservation town is Gallup, New Mexico. So they switched to match where U.S. government offices are or where. Wow. Trying to buy it now. Do or do not. There is no try. Don Hilton, I'll have to watch you later, Anthony. Gotta go out. Love to you all. Love to Ireland. XX. Well, that's okay, Don. Here's your hello anyway. And we'll see you on the rerun later on. Dr. Catherine Zapf says correct pronunciation. Wow. I don't believe it. I got something right. Yes. My pronunciations are normally as good as my Pythagorean theorems, as good as my algebra. And if you knew me, you'd know that that's not very good. Brilliant. Lots of conversation going on. Auntie Joe says hello from Colorado. I can't say, but I did share to Mythical Ireland Creatives and the Mythical Ireland community pages. All the best. Thank you, Joe. Have a great day, and we'll catch you on the rerun. Oh my God, koala gods are coming. Mavanwe is apparently here. Oh, there we go. Yes, she is there indeed. Hello, Mavanwe. My order just came through. Woohoo. Yes, I see that. Revised and expanded edition of Mythical Ireland will be sent to you at the earliest opportunity. Who else have we got? Oh, yeah, loads of people wishing Lexi a happy birthday. Mavanwe, hey, I did miraculously get here on time-ish. What a shock. But I'll confess, I have to run around and do a few chores. But I'm listening. That's perfectly okay. The chores have to be done whether Live Irish Myths is on or not, you know. Michael Pike adds to Tyler's joke, I didn't know that Mark Bolan was involved in Small Arms. He being the lead singer of T-Rex, yes, indeed. Well, I had a bit of an accident with the super glue yesterday, and I accidentally managed to super glue my hand to a copy of my autobiography. Now, my wife didn't believe me, but that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. See what I did there? Yeah. When you're explaining, you're losing. So I'm not going to explain. Yep. Do you hear about the man who walked into the bar and got disqualified from the World Limbo Championships? Anyway, moving swiftly on. I am delighted to have received, finally, it's been out of print for at least 6 months now, I think. And it was out of print because of its popularity, and that is Mythical Ireland, New Light on the Ancient Past. Yes, indeed. Look at that, folks. It is here in the flesh, in the tree flesh. in the paper. It is here in the paper. So yeah, I'm gonna do a little bit of reading from this tonight. By way of change, I know we still have to get back to finish medicine and all of that with P.W. Joyce, and we will do that, you know. Wow. Okay. So have we any volunteers to pop over to Movanwi's house and help her with the cleaning? Yeah. I'm gonna have to reach. I'm gonna have to reach up to the heights here. Give me 1 second because I want to show you the previous iteration. Oh dear. Or should I say the previous iterations. So if you look very closely, you'll see a few things. There's a few photographs in the new reprint that are swapped out. I changed a few photographs. But the biggest change that you'd see, so here is the previous iteration, and this was the first edition. This was the revised and expanded edition as it appeared. It's officially dated on the inside to 2022, but actually I got copies from the printer in December 2021. So that's what it looked like. And so if you compare that with the new one, one of the big things you'll notice is on the spine, the old one has the Liffey Press on it, and the new one has the Mythical Ireland logo on it. And I'll explain why. And that is because the reason it wasn't reprinted last year is because Liffey Press, who published all my major books, Island of the Setting Sun, Newgrange, Monument to Immortality, Mythical Ireland, New Light on the Ancient Past, and Dronehenge, the story behind the remarkable discovery at Newgrange. My publisher, David Givens, has retired. So in the absence of Liffey Press, I had to find a way to get Mythical Ireland back into print. And you will notice that it is now published officially by Mythical Ireland, whereas previously it was published by the Liffey Press. So that's a fairly substantial change. And at this point, I also should give a very special mention to Michael Maguire of Maguire's on Tara. So if any of you have ever been on the hill of Tara, almost certainly you will have visited Maguire's, which is both a cafe/restaurant and a gift shop. At the very least, you've probably used the toilets there, being the only toilets on the hill of Tara. But I wanted to say a very special thank you to Michael for supporting the reprinting and the republication of Mythical Ireland, a very special thanks to him. And just to say, if you are on the Hill of Tara at any stage, do pop in to Maguire's, whether you're looking for just a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, or whether you're looking for a hearty meal, or whether you're looking for an Irish themed gift. You'll find whatever you're looking for in Maguire's. Thanks also to Anglo Printers. They are based here at Tuatha, and if I'm not mistaken, this is the first of my big books to have been printed by Anglo. Those of you who have copies of my monographs and Return to Segish will have seen their work, and they really are brilliant printers, and not only able to keep up with the best printers in Ireland and indeed in Europe, but they recently invested in a brand new Komori print machine at a serious cost. And so I'm grateful to them. They've done a superb job because the brief that they were given was, I want you to reprint the book, and I want it to look and feel the same as it did previously. So no substantial changes to the weight of paper that's used, or the type of coated paper that's used, and the weight of card on the cover. And of course, as all my big books do have, it has the French flaps that open up from the front and back cover, which makes it feel like a lovely gift book, and adorned richly with full color photography throughout. And most of that photography, almost all of it, with a few exceptions, is my own photography of the monuments and the landscapes. So and each of the chapter sections adorned with nice photography. Mavanri says, I had a lovely meal at Maguire's when I visited Tara. Well, there you go. And the food is lovely there. It really is very, very nice. Flying in and out of Dublin is the key, yes. Because if you fly into Dublin, Tara is a 20-minute drive, really, you know. Amazing stuff. Barb Jordan, I presume that's you, Barb, is watching from YouTube for a change. Brilliant stuff. And a lot of people would say that the stream tends to be quite reliable on YouTube when compared with Facebook. Lexi, I own 2 copies, so forgive me if I don't order another one. Yeah. Not to worry. And thank you for all the lots of congratulations there, which is brilliant. Yeah, so very briefly, those of you who are subscribed to the Mythical Ireland emails should be, if you haven't done so already, you will be receiving an email over the course of the next couple of hours about the new reprint and a full what's the word? The entire prologue to the book is included in that email, just to give you a taster. Now, lots of you have the book. I know that. Lots of the regular viewers already have the book. By the way, so this is what it looked like when it was first published in 2017. It looked very different. It was published with this mysterious, misty photograph of Newgrange through the mist. That was a photo that was taken by me alongside the River Boyne one spring or summer evening as twilight descended and the mist came down. So it used to have this sort of dark bluish, don't know, is that sort of almost like a purple? And that's a single photograph wrapped around the front and back cover, with on the back cover Dogda's Mound, or Mound B, in the photograph also, and you can just see the water of the river here, River Boyne. So that's what it looked like. So that was published 2017. It was reprinted in 2019, and then when the second print ran out, David Givens of Liffey Press said to me, "Have you got any more material? You know, should we do a revised expanded edition?" And I said, "Yeah." So the revised expanded edition has 20,000 more words in it and more photography. The original, now, if you look, the original wasn't that much thinner. It was only about 8 pages thinner. The revised expanded edition was not that much thicker, but the type size, the font size was reduced. So there's a lot more words in it. So yes, the revised and expanded edition. So there's the original, and this is the very first copy of the 2021 revised expanded edition. And they look very different, but it's essentially the same book, except for this one has a lot more in it than this one did. And then this is the brand new reprint. Anyway, I was looking back through my files, and the idea for Mythical Ireland had been brewing for a time. I had written lots of material. Some of it had been published on the Mythical Ireland website as, you know, blog posts. Some were articles that I'd written that I hadn't published anywhere. And then I had ideas for more. And I was wondering, how could I sort of, you know, put all this together in a book? And the idea was that this would be almost like a hodgepodge, or hodgepodge, depending on how you pronounce it, of shorter chapters making up longer sections. Now, the chapter length in Mythical Ireland varies. So some chapters are 2 or 3 pages, some are 10, 12 pages, 14 pages. And also there's a sort of a huge variance in the style. Some of the chapters are very scholarly and littered with end notes for various academic sources. And then some are very poetic, very philosophical, very even mystical, So I wanted to combine that because that I thought had been an essential element of Mythical Ireland since the day one. So, by the way, coming up within the next week, Mythical Ireland, the website, will be 25 years old. Watch out for a special discount offer coming to celebrate the 25th anniversary. So when I kind of was putting the idea together for a book, I thought, well, why not call it Mythical Ireland, New Light on the Ancient Past, which is what the website has long said since it first made an appearance on the internet on the 16th of March in the year 2000. So I pitched this to Liffey Press. I sent a formal proposal on, I believe it was the 20, hang on, I have it here. 24th of July 2017, and I provided an outline of what it would look like, what would be in it, and a sample of some of the chapters, and that was sent at 9:24 a.m. on that Monday, and then I was like, okay, we'll have to wait and see what happens now. I didn't know what to expect. And an hour and a half later, I got a reply saying, I like it a lot. And immediately, my publisher was saying, we would obviously need to get this out by late October for the Christmas market. So, and he said, do you want to meet and chat about it? And I replied saying, actually, I'm off work today. I come up today and meet you. So we did. And by the evening, I had a paper contract and I had signed it. All in the same 12, 14-hour period. The same day. I sent the proposal in the morning, and by that evening, I had signed a contract. The big challenge then was, given that it was late July, and the book needed to be published sort of October, I basically had 2 months to get the whole thing together. Now, it happened that at least half of it was already written, so it would just need editing and footnotes and expansion and, all the usual. But I remember it being a big challenge, but it was one of those ideas that seemed like spur of the moment, but yet it had a short turnaround, and the book from conception to publication had probably one of the shortest, if not the shortest, turnarounds of any book I've published. I think actually it might have been the shortest turnaround. But the book had actually been in gestation for years beforehand. And I realized that there was a lot of material that, for reasons of length and discoveries of things that I'd figured out after the publication of Island of the Setting Sun and Newgrange Monument to Immortality, that hadn't appeared in either of those. And in any case, this was a chance to expand the book beyond Newgrange. There's a chapter on Newgrange, a section on Newgrange. There's a section on Nouth and Dow. There's a section on Slieve na Calia at Lough Crew, which was the largest output from me in terms of exploring Lough Crew to date. There's a chapter called Megaliths and Monuments, a section. So that's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 chapters in it. There's a section called the Boyne Valley, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 chapters in that. There's a section called The Meaning of Myth, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 chapters in that. The final one is Cosmology, and that's as much to do with astronomical cosmology as mythological cosmology. So the whole thing had been a work in progress probably for a decade, really. And I can't believe that it's 8 years this year since it was published. No, it's At this point in time, it's about 7.5 years, but it will be 8 years this year, you know. That challenge pushed you to the finish, says Barbara. Exactly. There is nothing like somebody imposing a deadline on you and saying, we need this by this date, to literally put a fire under your arse, as we say here in Ireland. This is the magic that is associated with everything that you do for Mythical Ireland. Pure magic, says Michael. And Helena is applauding. 25 years. You must have been in primary school. Well, thank you, Lily. Thank you. Yes, thank you for the compliments. But there you are. So I'm going to do a bit of reading. Oh, a new term. I didn't know they were called French flaps. I didn't know that until 2006, when Liffey said, yes, we will publish Island of the Setting Sun for you. And he mentioned it sort of looking like a gift book. It's probably the closest thing you can get to a hardback. You know, a soft cover book that because of its weight and because of the quality of it and because it's all printed in full color, and then the French flaps, it really feels like what's called in the industry a nice gift book. Thank you, Mavanwe. Yeah, so I propose to read a couple of excerpts from Mythical Ireland, New Light on the Ancient Past. And I'm conscious of the fact that, as with all these things, once you commit something to print, and once it's printed, it's sort of dated to a particular moment in time, which is why it's nice to revise and expand books, because it's an indication that scholarship and science and archaeology and thinking and the interpretation of monuments and mythology moves on with time. And so there's always room for new material, basically, you know. Now, what should we do? Should we read? So I definitely want to read something that's very one of my more poetic and mystical chapters. But I also want to, just to give you a sort of a feeling, you know. I don't even know where to start, to be honest. But I wanted to read something that was more scholarly as well, to give you a sort of a sample of the scholarly stuff and the poetic, you know. So let's do a little bit of reading about Lough Crew, and then what I propose to do is read, as I say, one of my favourite mystical, poetic, philosophical chapters. Yeah, I think that's probably a good one to read. I just want to place a bookmark in there so that I know that's the one. Many visitors to Lough Crew have probably heard the story of the Cailleach. Hag or witch is how we translate that, but as with many Irish words and names, there isn't really an adequate English equivalent. You know, it's like you can't force one thing into another language. That's the closest we have at equating what exactly the Cailleach might represent, but of course she represents many things. The hills of Lough Crew are known today as Carnban West, Carrickbrack, Carnban East, and Patrickstown Hill. And of course, I say that that's what they're known as, but I always refer to them by their original names. So Carnban West is just Carnban. Carnban East is Slieve na Cailleach. The hills, 3 of them at least, were collectively known in the 19th century as the Witches' Hops, and in the 17th as the Cailleach Steps. In some versions, Carrickbrack is omitted, and in the 15th century, the remaining 3 were referred to as 3 Cushcéim na Cailleach, the three footsteps of the Cailleach or the hag. There is an old poem about the Cailleach of Loughcrew that goes like this. Actually, I think this is the one that Dean Swift quoted, or I think it's thanks to him that we know about it, because it was obviously present in a local folklore, but the fact that it was saved. Photo number 5. Oh, it's from the school's collection. Yeah, but I think that Dean Swift was the one who had sort of recorded this. Anyway, I am the Cailleach. Sorry, the Cailleach. There are lots of, as is typical of Irish proper nouns, there are many variants of the spelling and of the pronunciation. I am the Cailleach Bera. Many wonders have I seen. I have seen Carnbawn a lake, though 'tis now a mountain green. The story about the Cailleach tells how she came from the north and she tried to jump from hill to hill. Some say from the Carnbawn or the Carnban, as we would anglicise it, but its original Irish Carnbawn, meaning the White Cairn or the White Cairns, the westernmost hill, to Patrickstown, the easternmost, alighting on the other hills in between. And somewhere, either in this chapter or another chapter in the section about Loughcrew, I talk about how Patrickstown is not the very name of that hill, because obviously the name of the saint, Saint Patrick, was superimposed upon it. If she could succeed in this magical feat, she would obtain great power. She was carrying an apron full of stones. As she jumped from hill to hill, she dropped some stones from her apron, forming the cairns on each of the peaks. Michael Pike, thank you indeed. Yes, please. And patrons, I need to provide some updates, which I will do. Exclusive material on Patreon. Needless to say, that includes the draft of my next book, which is finished but is has to be edited and published yet. So as she jumped from hill to hill, she dropped some stones from her apron, forming the cairns on each of the peaks. When she reached Patrickstown, which is undoubtedly a Christian name, and perhaps we might someday learn what its original name was, she fell and broke her neck. According to Jean McMahon, who was an archaeologist, a pile of stones at the bottom of the eastern slope of Patrickstown Hill was known locally until recently as the Cailleach's grave. In earlier times, the hill we know today as Carnban West was known just as the Carnban, from Carnbawn, the White Cairn, or the White Heap of Stones. The hill known today as Carnban East was known as Sliabh na Cailleach, the mountain or hill of the hag/witch. There is no doubt John Inman is in the house. Don't worry, there's no need to beg forgiveness or anything like that, John. You're very, very welcome to the stream. And anyone else who's late and I haven't seen, I will try to check up on the comments as we go along. There is no doubt that the story of the Cailleach of Loughcrew contains essences of an ancient creation or origin myth. This great woman, whose status has been reduced to an old crone, was probably a goddess of the land who was greatly venerated in ancient times. McMahon says of her, quote, "This Cailleach is famous in Irish folklore. Other storytellers have described her as a superhuman woman who could harvest a field faster than any man, a crone lamenting her youth, a banshee announcing a death, or a Christian nun. She is best known as Cailleach Vera, but has been called by many other names, including not only Wara, W-A-U-R-A, but Berry, B-E-R-I, Bui, and Vera, and maybe a later version of the ancient pagan sovereignty queens whose consent was required for kings to rule. Some scholars think she represented wild nature as a prehistoric earth goddess," unquote. Michael Dames suggests that, quote, and he was the author of Ireland, A Sacred Journey, quote, "The apron is the divine womb translated into the language of dress," unquote. In this context, we can see the apron as a womb of creation, and perhaps in the tradition of Maria Gimbutas, we can think of the cairns not so much as tombs, but more like wombs. As a creation or origin myth, the story of the Cailleach of Loughcrew shares some similarities with an other origin myth, one about how the River Boyne was formed. In that story, Bowen approaches Nectan's well, something which is forbidden for a woman. The well gushes forth into a fountain, carrying Bowen along as it creates the River Boyne. Bowen is mutilated by the waters. She loses an eye, and her arm and leg are broken or dismembered. Eventually, she is washed out to sea where she is drowned. Her lapdog, Dabilla, is transformed into the Rockabill Islands. In both cases, a female deity is credited with an act of creation, and in both cases, at the completion of the act of creation, the women are killed. Or the women die, should I say. I probably should reword that. They're not killed as in murdered, you know. They die in the act of creation. But there is more to the story of the Cailleach of Loughcrew than meets the eye. I'm inclined to think that the imagery of a woman jumping from hill to hill forming cairns is, perhaps, some memory of an ancient astronomical system in which the sun and moon were seen to rise up out of various hills and cairns when viewed from other parts of the complex, and possibly from other observing locations at a distance from the Loughcrew hills. And conversely, they were seen to set into hills and cairns from other vantage points. I'm inspired in this respect by the Cailleach na Mointeach, the old woman of the moors, at the Callanish Stones on the Isle of Lewis in Scotland. The local people there refer to her as the Sleeping Beauty, and once every 18.6 years, the moon at its major standstill southern extreme rises out of some part of this Sleeping Beauty and sets again at the bottom of Mount Clisham. Until 1980, little was known about any astronomical aspect of the Loughcrew cairns. But in that year, Martin Brennan and Jack Roberts, RIP to both of them, Jack Roberts passed last year and Martin Brennan passed away the year before, discovered the equinox alignment of Cairn T, during which the light of the rising sun on the equinoxes shines into the passage within the cairn and illuminates what Brennan described as solar emblems on the stone at the rear of the chamber. They also discovered that the chamber of Cairn L, that's on Cairn Bon, appeared to be aligned towards the November and February cross-quarter sunrises, and several other small cairns appeared to have alignments towards solar events. In some cases, the passage of a cairn is pointing towards another cairn. And by the way, this book was published before my own discovery of the alignment of Cairn S at Slieve na Cailleach towards Keshcaran in Sligo. For instance, from the chamber of Cairn I on Cairnban West, the sun appears to rise over Cairn T on Cairnban East or Slieve na Cailleach at the beginning of September. The imagery of a woman or goddess jumping from hill to hill is possibly symbolic of a system of alignments from various parts of the megalithic complex, focusing on sunrises and moonrises and also sunsets and moonsets. In the fullness of time, an even more comprehensive study of the alignments of Loughcrew might reveal an interest in the extreme lunar declinations, the minor and major standstills of the moon. At Tuatha, for instance, my own studies of the alignments of its two known passageways indicate that the setting moon at both its major and minor southern setting positions might have been the primary or even shared targets of the southern and northern chambers, while the setting sun at winter solstice for the southern chamber and the November-February cross-quarter days for the northern chamber were also targets. Perhaps the death of the Cailleach is allegorical, referring to the lunar extreme, and maybe the quote death unquote of one 18.6-year cycle and the beginning of the next one. The fact that she was said to have quote come from the north unquote is also interesting because of the fact that the maximum northern rising and setting extremes of the standstill moon are located in the far northeast and northwest. Until a more comprehensive study of the possible lunar alignments at Loughcrew can be undertaken, brackets, and I would be very happy to be involved, exclamation mark, close brackets. We can only reflect on the possibilities. We know that there are certain solar alignments. We can't be sure that these alignments were an intended principal function of the monuments, but they constitute a fascinating and indeed almost mystical aspect of these ancient structures. To be lucky enough to have been witness to some of these alignments makes me feel an extraordinary connection with the builders. We cannot know how far back the story of the Cailleach of Loughcrew goes. Certainly, as Jean McMahon acknowledges, quote, people have probably been telling stories about the Loughcrew Hills for more than 5,000 years, unquote. Is it too bold a step, too wild a conjecture to suggest that the story of the witches' hops or Cailleach steps is in fact some remnant of a very ancient myth, one which goes right back to the time when these cairns were constructed? Yeah, that is something I really must do, Desiree. Really stop talking about it, just do it. Is to sit down, find a studio somewhere and read these and make an audiobook. Yeah, definitely. So I'm going to forward to the section that is called the meaning of myth. And this is more exploratory. This is more about, this section is more about my own interpretation of mythology, the mythology that is intensely connected with the monuments and the landscape in which they're sited. And I felt that there was a very, the taking my lead from, you know, those druids and those olives and bards that we've been talking about on so many episodes for the past 5 years, that I should take my lead from them in a way that we're exploring sometimes. And this is where Mythical Ireland really, for me, allows me to use both sides of my brain. So there's the empirical and the factual and the historical. The one dealing with the material evidence, dealing with the dates and the sizes and the measurements and the types of stones. But then there's the altogether different, the intuitive, the poetic, the lyrical, the song-like exploration of the landscape, the philosophical, the numinous, the mystical. And I really wanted both of those to shine. And there are some chapters where it's very scholarly. There are some chapters where it's very poetic. And then there's some chapters where there's a nice sort of confluence of the two, or intermingling of the two. I agree, says Lexi. Audiobooks, please. Your voice is fabulous. Thank you. Valentina Bernardi has joined us from Glastonbury. Good evening to you, Valentina. And Anne McCallan forgot about the time change. Yeah, it's an easy enough thing to do, Anne. And I did mention it last week that I thought you guys would be springing forward, but don't worry. I checked at my 3 o'clock and checked all sources. So eventually thought I must missed a note that there was no live stream today. Anyway, hello all. Hope everyone's in good form. Yeah, we're all in great form. By the way, it's Lexi Erickson's birthday today. She's 21 again. So make sure to wish her a happy birthday. Yes, indeed. Thank you for the nice comments. Burr Wheel is in the house. Hello, Burr. Thank you for joining us. Helena says some call her, as in the Cailleach, the wind who brings in the seasons. Yes, indeed. And there was something that Sally Siggins, the chief guide at Carrowmore, was telling us there last year when I was bringing a group around the megaliths of Sligo about a battle that takes place at Imbolc and after it, where Bridget is trying to take over and the Cailleach is trying to maintain her power because she knows the power of dark, cold winter is waning and the summer is going to come on, you know. And in the springtime, there's this idea of a battle between the Cailleach and Bridget, which I think is fabulous, you know. Yeah, no, Valentina, we didn't change. We don't spring forward until the last weekend of March. So it was the US and Canada that sprung forward, although not all of the states. Arizona, for instance. So this is from The Meaning of Myth, and this chapter is 6.7. So the sections are numbered, and then the chapters in those sections. So this is 6.7, and it's called Rekindling the Powerful Image of the Druid Alkmaar. Yeah, so rather than trying to explain it, I'm going to read it. What time are we on? Oh, we've loads of time, and if we've time for one more, we'll read one more. We might take nominations for one more reading from the audience, because I know a lot of you have this book, either the original or the revised and expanded version. So if you want to prompt me, if there's one that you'd really love to hear, then let me know. Some of the oldest tales about Newgrange were written down in the Old Irish period. There is, of course, no easy way to tell when these stories first originated, but there are scholars who believe that it is possible that some of them have their origins in the Neolithic, when the great monuments of the Bend of the Boyne were built. I should add there, I probably should have added an explanatory footnote, and I thought I had done, but maybe I've done it elsewhere, that there's actually no real thing as the Old Irish period as such. Old Irish is considered by the philologists and the linguists to have been the earlier version of Irish that is not represented by any extant manuscript. Most or all of the extant manuscripts are either in Middle Irish or Modern Irish. But in the Middle Irish, they see remnants of the older language. So the Old Irish period isn't really a period as such. Old Irish refers to a version of the language that was probably in use when Christianity arrived into Ireland. Probably the late Iron Age, early, what we would call early, that crossover. Border is not a good idea when you're talking about time. That period of time representing the late Iron Age and the early medieval period. So this is a quote. Sorry, I've only read one paragraph and already I have to refer to the footnotes. So this book is generously endowed with footnotes. So if there's something that I've written and you're saying, I wonder where he got that idea from, you can refer to the original sources and then, of course, make up your own mind. Carey, this is from Carey, 1990. That's John Carey, and his 1990 paper was about time and the monuments. It was called Time, Memory, and the Boyne Necropolis, from Proceedings of the Harvard Celtic Colloquium, Volume 10, 1990. Wow, 35 years ago now. And this is a quote from Carey's work. In the case of Newgrange, we must therefore suppose not only that there was some cultural link between its builders and the first speakers of Gaelic in Ireland, but that this link exercised a formative influence in the belief system of the latter. Again, the survival of some versions of these ancient doctrines in the medieval literature indicates that the worldview of the Irish remained, at least in certain respects, astonishingly stable throughout the intervening centuries. The Boyne legends were still relevant and important in the Christian period, and this is something I have been reiterating for the past quarter of a century. My own belief that there was absolutely a link between the first speakers of Irish and the builders of Newgrange. And in fact, the geneticists appear to be backing that up in the past 5 years, when they've said that there was no great influx of people in the Iron Age, which is when we were previously told by scholars that the Irish language had arrived into Ireland. But it looks like it was already bedding down in what we call the Bronze Age. And the Beaker folk, when they arrived, absolutely would have encountered the Neolithic farmers, astronomers, mound builders. So there was a crossover. The ancient stories of Newgrange include The Gawal in Shida, the taking of the Otherworld Mound, Tochmark Etain, the wooing of Etain, and Altram Chia Gavatar, the fosterage of the house of the two drinking vessels. In the Gawal in Shida, it is the Dagda, the chief of the gods, who owns Newgrange, and is tricked out of it by his son Angus, who is known as Mac Og. In the latter two texts, it is Elkmar, the husband of Angus's mother Bowen, who owns the she. In Tochmark Etain, there is an incredibly powerful image of Elkmar standing on Newgrange at Samhain. And of course, I don't say it immediately here, but I may say it further down, and I've already said it in the first section of the book, which entirely deals with Newgrange, that the old name of Newgrange was Sheed Brogar, She and Vroa, or She on Vrew, as it would be rendered in modern Irish. Sorry, I'll read that again. In Tuchmark Etain, there is an incredibly powerful image of Elkmar standing on Newgrange at Samhain in druidic garb and carrying in his hand a mysterious but potent symbol, a fork of white hazel. It is Samhain, that very special time of the year, at the threshold of winter, a time when, quote, the dead might reach out to the living, unquote. Sorry, who's that quote from? MacKillop. That's MacKillop, 2006, which is not his Dictionary of Celtic Mythology. It is his book that's called Myths and Legends of the Celts. Elkmar has evidently arrived into the ownership of Sheedenbroga through his power as a druid and a poet and a diviner. The vision is an extraordinary one, filled with druidic symbolism and divine energy. Here is the magician of Brunebonia, the one who occupies a privileged position as the wise elder of his community. In this guise, we see Alkmaar as the prehistoric cult leader, the chief priest of the tribe, the commander, perhaps, of the community that built the great monument, and we might even venture to suggest its chief astronomer. Charles Phelan is saying hello from Montreal. Still winter over here. Visited Carrowmore Megalithic Cemetery in 2023. Hope to visit Newgrange this year. Brilliant stuff, Charles. That'll be memorable. Yeah, Newgrange is really, really special. Read the part you wrote first, as it probably is the biggest portion of your passion imbued in it. Yeah, and it's not necessarily arranged chronologically either. Yeah, let me think about that. That's a good idea, though. Lots of people still saying hello to Lexi, or saying happy birthday, should I say. As the supposed original owner of Sheedenbroga, it is clear that Alkmaar held a privileged position in our ancient stories. Some accounts hold that the original inhabitants of Newgrange were Bowen and her spouse, Nuadu Nechten. Yes, the two names are sometimes combined. Otherwise known as Elkmar. Confused? I know, right? Nuadu, Nechten, Elkmar. Apparently 3 names for the same individual, for the same deity. This name, Elkmar, apparently properly pronounced in Middle Irish, Elkvar, because there will be a shevu on the M, indicating lenition. Elkvar translates as the envious one, quite possibly because of the extramarital wanderings of his wife Bowen with the Dagda. Now, I've spelled her name Boan just there, but earlier in the paragraph, Bowen. And so if you're reading that and you're kind of going, this guy can't even get the spellings right, that is because of the oft-quoted habit of the monks who wrote a lot of this material down in the Middle Ages of spelling proper nouns various different ways, and sometimes 2 or 3 different ways on the same page of vellum. So Bowen can be spelled B-O for the I-N-N and B-O for the A-N-N, and sometimes Boand, B-O for the A-N-D. So yes, she had some extramarital wanderings with the Dagda. You know, wandering away from her husband Elkmar. And yet, spellbound under the considerable magical abilities of this interlocutor, the spellbound Elkmar was said to have known nothing of their union, even though they produced the child Angus Og in his absence. By the way, they abandoned Angus by the river and fled when Elkmar came back. So it's no wonder he didn't know. Perhaps the envy was wrought by Angus Og, who managed to trick Elkmar out of the ownership of Newgrange, using little more than wit and ancient Ireland's version of a clever legal argument. The most striking symbol of Elkmar's presence at Sheedenbroga is undoubtedly the fork of white hazel. The hazel tree was revered in ancient Ireland for a number of reasons. It was said to have grown near water, and indeed the wood of the hazel was the primary tool of the diviner. But it was also said to have had mystical powers of protection and could ward off snakes, among other evils. Hazel trees were said to have grown over sacred wells, which were the source of Ireland's great rivers, the Boyne and the Shannon. The hazelnut is associated with wisdom, not necessarily wisdom of sciences, but perhaps a more esoteric perception, which included, quote, inspiration and the knowledge of poetry, unquote. It was the sacred hazelnuts of wisdom that eventually gave Fionn his great insights, gained from the salmon of knowledge. In our tradition, it is said that the salmon gains its knowledge from the nuts of the hazel that dropped into the sacred well. Every spot on the salmon's back represents each nut that the fish has consumed. Elkmar didn't need a weapon. He had a fork of hazel, and hazel was noted for its power of protection against malevolence. It gave protection against evil spirits and even snakes. We come to a question about Elkmar, a quandary that must be explored to better ascertain his influence, if there should be any, upon the modern interpretation of Sheedenbroga, the place the Cistercians first called the New Grange. The question is this: was Elkmar a scientist or a mystic? Was his rod of hazel a scientific instrument or a holy implement? Was it, perhaps, both? The modern-day rod-bearers are the archaeologists who come, by and large, to the brew by the Boyne, with very little care for the fairy tales and fireside stories of old. Their rods are utilitarian, functional, and prosaic. They are yardsticks used to measure height, width, and depth of archaeological features in quotes. They appear in photographs to show scale. There is no Elkmar here holding court in the Shee, no Angus Og to bewitch him with cunning. There is only the material evidence, the one thing so treasured by the archaeologist. During the excavation of Newgrange, Professor Michael O'Kelly decided that a spring of water that emerged from between two orthostats in the passage should be piped underground. It wouldn't be acceptable for tourists to Newgrange to get their feet wet in the process of visiting the monument. But how do we know the spring was not an essential element of the monument's design? Was Newgrange built upon that spring for sacred and ritual purposes? Is that why Elkmar held a dowsing rod of hazel in his hand? Michael Trott has joined us from New Zealand. Happy birthday, Lexi. Late summer temperatures here today. Well, it's warm there and it's getting warmer here. Well, it's certainly sunny here. A very good morning to you, Michael. You are in Tuesday while all the rest of us are in the confusion of Monday. The confusion being that the US and Canada, a lot of places there, not all, have sprung forward, while we in Ireland have not yet sprung forward and won't do till the end of the month. The trouble with archaeologists the late Boyne Valley folklorist Ban Icharbre would say, quote, is that they have no imagination, unquote. The trouble with archaeologists, the ever-living Alkmaar might say, is that they do not possess the art of divination. Lacking a divining rod, or eschewing it completely, eschewing, the archaeologist has come to Newgrange only with a spade to dig, a greater weapon than anyone possessed on that Samhain day when Angus Og came to Brunabonia to challenge Alkmaar. Heed not the stories of fairies and otherworldly folk, the archaeologist might say. Bring the spades and trowels and yardsticks, and we shall dig it up, measure it, and know its secrets. Unquote. And my question thus follows. Are its secrets yet revealed? Ironically, there is one similarity between the measuring instruments of the archaeologists and the white fork of hazel brandished by Alkmaar. Both are ground-penetrating implements used to reveal things that are hidden. Alkmaar divines for water, among other things. The archaeologist divines for features using resistivity and gradiometry. And of course, I failed to mention ground-penetrating radar and LiDAR and all the battery of techniques, tomography, that they use today. Here, it seems, the similarities between the archaeologists and the archetypal magician of Newgrange end. The diviner lives beyond the confines of rationality, analysis, and conformance to dogma. He inhabits mystical realms. Newgrange is a tomb, a dead thing, the archaeologists declare. Sheedenbroga is a living thing, and the spirits of the ancestors come hither from the land of promise to remind us of its true purpose, cries out Alkmaar in retort. The fork of white hazel is the symbol that is all too often missing from the modern interpretation of Newgrange. Today it is called a tomb. It has become a dead thing. The image of Alkmaar standing on the mound in all his power reminds us that the creative and intuitive side of our nature must not give way to the deadening image of the archaeologist's measuring rod. Yes, the archaeological interpretation of Newgrange is hugely important, and we are extremely grateful for all the light that they have shed on these wonderful ancient places. But they do not hold a premium on the interpretation of these sites. In ancient times, the poet held almost equal court in terms of status with the king. Today, we should allow the Druid Alkmaar to hold equal standing with the archaeologist. This means accepting that Newgrange has a power beyond what can be measured with a red and white pole. This means empowering aspects of ourselves that are hidden in the darkness of the She, and shining that solstice light into the darkness to awaken something latent in us. We must allow our Alkmaar nature to stand on the She at Samhain. Without that inculcation, that instilling of the wisdom from within, Sheedenbroga loses its power and becomes just the new Grange, that heap of stones that once was a tomb, but now is an empty vessel. And Coda is joining in the reading here in the background. The real danger in depriving ourselves of our Alkmaar image is that everything thus follows the same path. Everything becomes inanimate and materialistic, and our view becomes perhaps even nihilistic. Why are we here at all? Our Alkmaar image allows us to stand in the power of our presence in all that it encompasses. scientific and spiritual, awesome and terrible, and to engage fully with the journey of life. Thus, the childlike initiate becomes the supreme poet of the Boyne, the one who has tasted the salmon of knowledge. To the rationalist, the monument is called Newgrange, and it is a pile of stones from the past, the corpse of something it once was. To the poet, the monument is called Sheedenbroga, and it is a crystal bower, a place where the sun eternally shines. That, my dear people, is chapter 6.7 of the new reprint of the revised and expanded edition of Mythical Ireland. So Barbara had an idea that I should read what I had written first, and I know that before the book was written, or before large parts of it was written, what eventually became the epilogue, I had read to some friends. I think probably a couple of years before the book even sort of manifested. Thank you, Debbie. I'm glad you enjoyed that. And that is, yeah. So that's I hope a very good example of where, the whole combination of disciplines and that holistic approach that I tend to particularly enjoy when looking at the past. Don't look at it just from one or two viewpoints. Try to see it from all viewpoints. And I hope that I haven't done any disservice to the archaeologists, because I don't think that they all believe that Newgrange is a dead thing, and that I don't think they all, for a moment, I don't think that they all believe it's just a pile of stones. But there certainly are some who would view it from that perspective, an entirely sort of materialistic and empirical and scientific perspective, with very little or no room at all for something numinous, something transcendent, Anyway, so I'm going to read the epilogue, and it may not have been the first part of this book that was ever written, but it certainly was something I'd written before the book ever came into my mind. And with some editing and expansion, it eventually became the epilogue, sort of an afterthought. And my hope at this moment in time is not only that Mythical Ireland continues to remain in print for this foreseeable future and for many years to come, hopefully, but that there is another work like this in me yet to come. And of course, I know there is. The companion volume to Return to Segish, which I've been sharing with the patrons, is one such work. So there will be more, if the gods and goddesses spare me. Yeah, progressive is a good way of looking at it. Progressive, inclusive of different perspectives and ideas. And it seems you're all enjoying the reading. Anyway, so this is probably the only other excerpt that I'll have time for to read. And this is called Ancestral Time, A Return to the Brew. And this is the epilogue at the very end of the book. This is, sorry, my bookmark is slipping. This is what closes. This is what you read at the very end. This is the last thing you'll read, and my hope is that when you get to the last words of it, that in closing the book over, that there'll be a sadness. I don't know. It's not for me to say, but I know when I've read something that I really love and that has moved me and that has inspired me, I always feel emotional when I get to the end of it. But then you have it and you can read it and reread it and reread it. And the best books, and I'm not saying this is one, not by a long shot, but the best books are those that offer you new perspectives on every rereading. So in other words, you read it once and you go, oh, I really liked that. And then you read it again and more issues out from the fissures, that there's a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in. There's a crack in everything. That's how the light gets out. That on each rereading, more of it percolates into your subconscious levels, Anyway, here we go. This is called Ancestral Time, a Return to the Brew. There's a reason I've been going to Newgrange all these years. I've been trying to remember something that I'd never forgotten. Rather, I just put it away in its place, ready to be retrieved when the time was right. A time for everything, and everything in its time. A place for everything, and everything in its place. Time at the Brew. The Bro Park, the Brew of Elkmar, the Sheed Machin Og is ancestral time. A time to get in touch with ancestors, to bring them back to the living sphere so that they can tell us of the things that they never forgot, things that I shouldn't have forgotten. Did you forget? They ask. No, I did not forget anything, I reply. I just put these things away. A time for everything. But I did forget something. I forgot that I come from them. And so I forgot them. Now, in the cold light of mature memory, I wonder if that's why I've often felt like I'm living in the wrong time. I don't quite fit in here. And in brackets, I've written, hardly a unique scenario for an anxiety-ridden guest in the unfathomable world. I can't say it. The unfathomable world at any time. Never mind today. Close brackets. Do I wish to live in another time? This is my time. This is the time I've been given. It's not that I'm living in the wrong time at all. For you can only live in the time in which you are present. What I have failed to do is to live in ancestral time. That time that transcends reckoning by hours or clock hands or sunsets or new moons or solstices. For ancestral time is all of time. It does not know of any beginning or end or any counting of the days. I forgot to live in the forever, choosing instead to live in the now, but oftentimes living in the past or in the future. To live in the forever is what Sheed Broga represents. It's what Tír really means. When you step out of now time and thinking time and fretting time and regretting time and anxious time, you are in ancestral time. The ancestors brought you here to this moment, to this place. On a visit to the Anubis Cave in Oklahoma on 20th of March 2007, the spring equinox, the writer and artist Martin Brennan said something which seemed recondite and almost kitsch when I first heard it in a video posted to YouTube. It was clear that he was excited by his visit to that special place. He said, I love to get in touch with my eternal self, that which doesn't move. What could he possibly have meant? I really did not know initially, but guessed that he might be playing to some kind of new age audience that likes to hear enigmatic, esoteric bluff. But that was my ego talking, because my spirit did not yet understand. Brennan was experiencing ancestral time. If you step out of this moment and look upon it from another viewpoint, perhaps you will see with ancestral eyes the futility and the incongruousness of the idea of today and now and yesterday and tomorrow. I had forgotten to live in ancestral time. I had forgotten to live in forever time. And now, with 43 journeys around the sun completed, do the maths. This was published and written, this was published in 2017. I think back to when I was a boy, and I used to stare longingly in complete awe at the stars of night. And at those times I felt a mighty yearning in my heart, a hankering for something, a pining, something I could never explain in words or properly understand. It felt like something was missing or something was lost. I now know that I was living in ancestral time, existing in a forever that knew no boundaries of time or measurement. If myth can live so long, woo, the lights are flickering. Somebody's really enjoying this, or either somebody's not enjoying it very much. If myth can live so long, through centuries and countless generations of ancestors, then why not some greater memory, some intimate inculcation, wrought out of the vague vestiges of ancestral retrospection? By living even fleetingly in ancestral time, is it possible to see through the eyes of the ancestor? Do we become the ancestor when we get in touch with our eternal selves, that which does not move? The beautiful words of the late Martin Brennan. Unsurprisingly, Brennan seemingly felt that he had entered ancestral time when visiting a place that was sacred in the past. Anubis Cave had, at some point in measurable time, been a focal point of ancestral energy. But we can probably say that Anubis Cave is a focal point of ancestral energy, now and always and never. As an artist with a considerable track record of noticing things, he noticed that the cave resembled a skull. He had gone there to die, or at least to allow the ego to die and the spirit to soar. He was living in the forever. That's what the ancestors had probably done too. Sitting in the eye sockets of a stone skull, they had gone to witness the death of the ego and the glorious ascension of the spirit. There isn't much room for the ego in ancestral time. And in many of my anxious hours of a youth, I forgot to live in ancestral time. But somehow, gazing at the stars brought it all back to me, even if I did not know it at the time. Orion, won't you hunt with your dog across the skies of forever and never set on me again? Pegasus, won't you fly with your great wings upon gossamer skies in the midst of eternity? Sagittarius, won't you come forth a little and tarry a while above your lowly horizon, so that I might glare upon your teapot shape in the never-ending summer? As I write this, I can see the veiled sun behind some thin cloud. As I stare, I wonder if I haven't entered the realm of ancestral time, which isn't a real place or a discernible thing at all, but rather the indescribable she, S-I for the D-H-E, that which has no translation. Unsurprisingly, we find that Sied in Broga encompasses the duality of countable, calendrical time, and also the notion of eternity, something beyond time. Around its borders are giant slabs of shale, forming a huge ring around the base of the cairn, like a belt keeping everything in place. Walking around the cairn, Jeshel, or sunwise, not widdershins, we count stones like counting months or lunations, reckoning time by 3-ton monoliths. Maybe there is supposed to be an incantation, some utterance or prayer or petition at each stone on the round. I make no such utterance. I prefer not to process in a processional way, but rather to lose count or not to count at all. And becoming distracted by ancient artwork, I wonder if, with the wobbling of the Earth's axis and the slowly changing positions of the stars, I should rather be processing in a precessional way and not a processional way. Either way, Newgrange is not a giant set of rosary beads. Do not impart the repetitive strains of a contrived prayer at the curbside at the Shee of Machindog. Angus Og does not want to hear your monotonous utterances. He wants you to follow the stones to see where they lead. Some of you will find that they lead nowhere. Some of you will find that they lead everywhere. Some of you will find yourselves, as I have done, going around in circles. And in doing so, a whole year might feel like just one day, or, as in the story of the begetting of Angus, maybe 9 months will seem like a single day. Be careful if you are counting stones to make sure you don't get the same number the second time. That's one of the secrets of the stones. In the counting of time, it's interesting that the curb of stones around Newgrange is unbroken. It could be said that the curb is unending. If you walk Jeshel around Newgrange, where do you start and where do you end? If you process and progress processionally around Newgrange, you merge calendrical countable time with eternity. You can count stones as days or weeks or lunations or years, but unless you choose a starting stone and a finishing one, you are walking towards eternity. I once met an elderly woman in a library. I was researching old myths and place names. We ended up sitting at the same table, and we got talking. After a while, when we realised we had mutual interests, the lady told me about an interesting word in Irish, a word that I cannot now remember. She said that the word represented a point on a circle. It was typical of one of those Irish words that does not translate easily into English. A point on a circle. Surely there is no such thing as a point on a circle. A circle is a continuous loop, a never beginning and never ending thing. We discussed this point on a circle. Perhaps it was a beginning and or an ending point. Maybe it was a counting aid. Perhaps it was just a decorative item, like a diamond on an engagement ring. Maybe the entrance curbstone at Newgrange, with its lavish designs, is the diamond on the engagement ring of Sheed and Broga. In the library, this old lady and I agreed that there were some ancient ideas and customs that were not easily explained or understood. The point on a circle was just such a notion. Years later, with the benefit of many journeys around the curb belt of Newgrange, I now know that the point on a circle is a concept that encompasses both countable time and eternity. It's a pity I cannot recount that word. For the sake of discussion, let us suppose that the curbstone situated immediately outside the entrance to the passage of Newgrange, the one inconsiderately labelled Curb 1, is the point on the circle of the curb belt. That is the point at which a visitor is likely to begin a complete journey around the curb. It is, fascinatingly, the point where the circle of the curb, it's really more like a flattened egg or even a heart, meets the cross of the passage and chamber. It is a sacred point, a liminal zone, a remarkable junction. It is where the calendar meets eternity. It is now, and it is forever. Perhaps that's why it appears to present a challenge to the visitor who wants to enter Newgrange. To get to the doorway of the brew, one must climb over the curb. Today, there are wooden steps to make it easier. But in the old days, before the excavation, a little bit of nimble dexterity was involved. If you wished to knock on the door of the brew, first you must cross over the curb, at that point on the circle where now meets eternity. And if you could knock on the door of Newgrange, and if Angus Og answered, what would you ask him? Definitely don't ask him where the treasure of Newgrange lies. If you do that, he will laugh at you and point you towards Tuatha, with its giant crater, a gaping mouth hole that shouts, there is no treasure. For the treasure of Newgrange is no mere gold trinket or Roman coin. I might ask Angus if it's okay to walk widdershins around the curb and to come to the door against the path of the sun. Might I be washed out to sea if I come widdershins around the brew? No, the spirals tell me otherwise, for they are wound inwards and outwards. There are Jeshel spirals, and there are widdershin spirals. Widdershins, anti-sunwise, also called Tuatha, or left-hand wise. The only wrong way to approach the doorway of Newgrange is the preconceived way. If you pretend you know what it's about, you will never arrive at the doorway of the She. You will come to the entrance, but Angus will not be there to greet you. So even today, when I approach the Gyata na She, the gateway of an untranslatable concept, I sometimes admit that I haven't a clue what Newgrange is about. And when that happens, Angus invites me in. Did you process processionally around the mound, he asks me. No, I answer, I precessed, I regressed, I digressed. I came to the doorway of the brew by paths unknown, the lone pilgrim who was lost at Cletchich, and somehow found the salmon in the pool beneath Rossnaree. Did you ford the Boyne, he asks. I did. I managed, through means that are perhaps Damascene, to do what King Cormac could not. I crossed the Boyne at Rossnaree and conquered all my fears. I was converted on the road to Sheedenbroga. Converted? Deconverted, actually. As I said, I regressed and I digressed. I left the Christian side and waded across into realms unknown. I wanted to go back to the ways of the ancestors. And who did you meet when you got to the other side? I met the housekeeper, the keeper of the House of Bro, above the ford on the Boyne, the ancient M1 motorway, where many a lost pilgrim crossed from the Wood of the King and found their ancestors. And just to note that the Wood of the King is a translation of Rossnaree. And what did the housekeeper ask you? He asked me the secret to crossing the river safely. And I told him that Bowen's course from source to sea is Jeshel. Angus jumps up half in surprise and half in joy. I told him that Bowen follows sunwise from the well of Segish to Inverculpa. She might have walked widdershins around the well, but her greater journey followed the round of the sun. With Bowen flowing Jeshel, there would be no flood at Rosnaree. No flood of water, no flood of dreams, no flood of nightmares. Today, there will only be a flood of memories. Memories from old days, memories from today, and memories from the future. Memories of Diarmuid, and memories of Fionn, and memories of Cormac, buried there at Cletchach beneath lofty Rosnaree. Today, I will remember the ancestors of the past and the ancestors of the future. I will not drown in a flood of Bowen's tears. And when I come to the doorway of the brew, I will ask a question of Angus, the young son, who knows no age. I will ask him how the Tuatha Danann first encountered ancestor time. When did they learn to stand at the point in the circle and to enter infinity? Was it when he, Angus the young, Angus the innocent, Angus the initiate, asked his dad for a loan of Newgrange for just a night and a day? Give us your house for a night and a day. I'll give it a try, but I will not stay. Dagda agreed. And just like Dagda had sent Alkmaar off to count stones or to process processionally around the curb, to lose track of time in the many journeys past the point in the circle, the point where now meets forever. Maybe Angus sent Dagda on a similar journey. Alkmaar left Sheedenbroga, not knowing that things would never be the same again. Dagda left Sheedenbroga, not knowing that things would never be the same again. Alkmaar returned to the brew to find there was a young son, Angus Og, who had not been there before. Dagda returned to Sheedenbroga to find that it was no longer Sheedenbroga. It was now She Machan Og. Once Alkmaar left the brew, it didn't matter how he returned, whether he approached from the south or the north or the west or the east. It mattered not whether he brought quartz or granodiorite or grey-wacky stones to place on the cairn. It mattered not if he came around a Jeshel or Widdershins. In his absence, the young son, SON/SUN, had arrived, the one who is forever young, the one who tarries on the edge of eternity. Bereft of his fork of white hazel, Alkmaar could not find the point on the circle, the doorway to forever. He would have to find a different she. When Dagda left the brew, it didn't matter how he returned, for all of time is made up of day and night, and no matter how he might argue with his son, he could not win. He gave it away for a night and a day. He gave it away for all of time. And so the Tuatha Danann learned about ancestor time. They learned that there is no today, and no yesterday, and no tomorrow. There is only all of time and no time. And that's how they won the wars with the Fomorians and the Milesians. Win, lose, or draw, they could live in forever time, so that they are just as present today as they were in those mystical horizons of time in the distant past. Outside Newgrange, there is the known, measurable, calendrical time. Inside, there is no time. There is only forever. As they say in France, qu'est la vie? C'est la vie. Brad M is in the house. Hello, Brad. Greetings and greetings and greetings. Standing at the point of the circle and enter infinity. Yeah. You know, the point of the circle is a really sort of fascinating idea that a circle doesn't have a point. You know, it's a never ending, never beginning thing. And yet, you know, you think about doing laps, or you think about a stopwatch, you know, or you think about a clock, you know, being right twice a day. We put points on circles because we want to measure things, you know. Yeah. This also reminded me to what Tolkien talked about a while ago, about a recurrent dream he had since he was a little child, about a giant wave that wiped everything in his way. He used that dream as inspiration in one of his writings, and then waved that dream to one of his characters, Faramir. And then Tolkien discovered his little son also experienced the same dream, which was both fascinating and unsettling, since he never spoke about it with anyone. So yeah, myths and memories live eternally as long as people are able to remember them. But sometimes there's some mysticism we still cannot explain right away. Sorry for the long text. No, that's perfectly okay, Rossio. Always, always, always interesting. Oh, there you go. Lexi really enjoyed that. Nice birthday present. Yeah. So the only thing is now when you get the book, Lexi, the new one, you'll be reading it. You won't be having it read to you. You know. So, well, it was one of the things that the bards said or believed. You know, that when the monks wrote down stories, they sort of changed the power of them. They disempowered them. That it's most important that the stories and the poems and the metrical verses and the genealogies and all of the law tracts, that they were able to be communicated verbally, orally, in speech and song. And it's such a different thing to listen to a story than to read it. They're two very different experiences, you know. Veronica Smith is also here. Hello, Veronica, watching on YouTube. Very nice to see you in the library. How many circle sites have you found? That's an interesting one too. I've thought about that quite a lot. Yeah. Well, I've certainly found a few. Actually, in terms of circular, previously undiscovered, so possibly at least 200. But of course, the big one being Dronehenge, sitting down there on the floodplain beneath Newgrange. The one that Alkmaar in Tuchmark, Etain, well, along with the other henges, was looking down upon as the boys were playing in the playing fields, the Cluchimai, the henge sites. It's extraordinary how. Yeah, for those of you who are new or only recently watching these episodes, go back and watch the one that's called Serendipity, Synchronicity, and Spontaneity. Some extraordinary magic going on in the background to a lot of this, you know. Yeah, so Desiree reiterating the point about an audiobook, and I think actually probably that and Return to Segish would be the two that would immediately lend themselves to audiobook, because if you've enjoyed that, particularly that ancestral time, that epilogue to Mythical Ireland, and you've enjoyed the mood of that and the language of it and the lyricism of it and the mysticism and philosophy and poetry of it, then Return to Segish is written in that voice, as it were, entirely. It's from beginning to end. Return to Segish is you know, written in that vein. By the way, just in case you're not aware of it, Return to Segish can be obtained on the website as well. Signed copy. I will sign it before I send it to you. So yeah, some food for thought, definitely. Something about Kilmartin. Sorry, I missed a comment there. Well, I didn't think I would catch the stream today because my hospital clinical says hemp flower. Well, we're glad that you're able to make it, and best of luck with the clinical. And hopefully, all is good. Best wishes to you from us in the Boyne Valley. Tara Moore is also here watching on YouTube. Thank you indeed. I hope you enjoyed that. So I saw something from Lexi, but it's disappeared. Amanda June is also here. I'm glad I didn't miss the whole thing and caught the end. Lovely reading. I'm sorry I missed it, but the park was calling. I just had a 2-hour wander taking. That sounds brilliant. And come here, the way it is, Amanda, you can watch this back immediately after it's finished. It'll be available as a video. Lexi reiterating what Desiree was saying. Yeah, and I need to get one of those BBC microphones that record the full depth of the voice. Return is magnificent, says Lexi. Thanks, Lexi. Biggest fan, I think, or definitely up there among them. Something about Kilmartin I saw, and I just can't find it now. I can't find it now. Oh, there we go. I felt it there. I'm deeply at Kilmartin in Scotland. I belong there somewhere. There are places, and you just, yeah. My time at Nouth, says Michael, gave me the connection and feeling of the ancestral time that was shared with you. The magic is there and shall remain. It's like you can't take the magic out of a place, no matter what happens in human and historical terms, the events and the happenings and the territorial, which is only ever temporal. It's only ever short-lived. There's something about a place, a numinous point on the earth or locale where it's heavily imbued with this emanation, otherworldly, this she point, this point on the circle, if you like, this doorway to the eternal, Catherine loves the idea of ancestral time and forever time. And Saoirse is also in the house. She was wishing Lexi a happy birthday. Lexi is, I suspect, going away this evening or this afternoon for her with a huge smile on her face, being her birthday, being home from hospital, having everybody saying happy birthday to her. And yeah. Yeah, and that's a good point Barbara Murphy makes, that few archaeologists are as grounded in fact as you think. Just join us for food and drink, usually a drink, after the spades and pens are put down for the day. We just are trained not to put that fun stuff in our scientific reports. Yeah, and maybe that's the difference, So maybe you got to forget about peer review and forget about worrying about what your colleagues will say, and just say it. Because, the way I look at it is you have one chance. You have one chance in this life to do. And if you're involved in a discipline that says you can do this, but don't do that, then for me, that's dogma. And dogma is always, always stifling to the thorough and open-hearted and open-minded and, all-encompassing interpretation or viewpoint of the past. Lily, I didn't mean it like that. I meant, the last thing you will read in the book before you get to the footnotes. Yes, the water is still drained away. So during the excavations in the 60s and 70s, Professor O'Kelly culverted the water with a pipe to drain it away, so that apparently prior to the excavation, if you walked up the passageway, your feet would get wet. And I actually think that's a lovely thing, because it has all sort of it has implications of sort of a baptism of sorts, the neophyte having to wash their feet, before entering the holy chamber. To me, that makes so much sense. The idea that there was a spring on the side of the hill and that they built the monument so that the spring was still able to emerge between a gap in two orthostats at the side of the passage, that they intentionally built it to allow the water to continue to flow. And in turning off the water, as it were, that perhaps the archaeologists have deprived Sheet Broga of some of its essential energy. I don't know. Just thinking again, outside of the realm of the empirical and the rational, So I'm glad you enjoyed that. Really delighted to see that back in print. And as I said, again, a special thanks to Maguire's of Tara. And if you're up at Tara, please do support them and drop in and mention. By the way, please do that. If you're there, give a mention and say, listen, thank you for supporting Mythical Ireland, because it would be great, feedback for them. What I get from this lecture mainly is that I think I wouldn't call it a lecture, Rossi, or a reading, maybe a heart pouring. What I get from this lecture mainly is that I think that humans seek in their lives more than anything is to be remembered one way or another through their actions, through their words, stories, songs, through the memories from the next generation. Whether if they help their family, their community, their country, I think everyone wants to leave that mark. That way they live forever as long as we remember. Mr. Anthony, you left me sentimental. But I think you've hit on something, which is the idea that we're all just passing through, and yeah, we should do something that benefits the wider community and that ensures, especially if remembering stories is, what was the very first quote at the beginning of the prologue. So the very first thing you read, very first thing you read in Mythical Ireland after the acknowledgements and the contents are these words. It appears to be the purpose of the myth, as in the case with the dream, to keep alive in our memory our psychological prehistory, right down to the most primitive instincts, and the assimilation of the meaning of myths has the effect of broadening and modifying consciousness in such a way as to bring about a heightened aliveness. And that's quoted from a biography of C.G. Jung written by his good friend and colleague Marie-Louise von Franz. But I think that kind of sums up what I think what you're getting at, and what I would say in response. You probably will, Desiree. You probably will. Yeah. Just need to get it done, don't I? Just checking that I didn't miss any other comments. There's so many comments tonight, which is always brilliant. It's lovely to see all the interaction that's going on. Charles Phelan is in the house as well, watching on Facebook. Hello, Charles. And people are leaving already. Richard says, thank you, Anthony. It was wonderful to hear your voice expressing your words. A big yes to audiobooks. Brilliant. That's a definite. That's. I think you've all spurred me into some action on that. Dear Mrs. Murphy, seems you are putting the bins out tonight. Mr. Murphy may get his head stuck as we have inflated his head. No, it'll be all right. Don't worry. Stay humble. That's the other thing, Elaine Dent-Lingenfelder apparently was going to leave earlier and had jumped the gun. Yeah, I don't know where Tom is tonight. Didn't see Tom, but sure, I'll say hello to him. I'll tell him you were all asking for him. But no doubt, I'd say he's got people at the forge. I'd say he's busy hammering away on molten metal on his anvil. Anyway, so don't forget, if you haven't done so already, definitely subscribe to the email newsletter. That's free, and it's not like one of these spam things that you get 2 or 3 a day. The very most you get is 1 per week. Today's email was the first in 3 weeks. So do subscribe. You can subscribe on the website. It's free to join. And if you're so inclined, it would be lovely if those of you who aren't patrons would consider becoming patrons. And of course, the address for that is scrolling constantly throughout the episode patreon.com/Mythical Ireland and become preferably a paying patron. If you're sign up for free, you don't really get much that's not on social media anyway. But if you sign up at the paid levels, especially the Bronze Age level and above, you will get you'll be getting, among other things, the draft text of my book that's complete, that is yet to be published. The one that is called, I have a working title for it, but anyway, if I haven't already done so, I'll reveal that to patrons first. Anyway, thanks everyone for joining us. It's 2 hours. That's a long one this evening. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll be back next week. Now, next week we will be distracted again because next week, of course, is St. Patrick's Day. So we must talk about St. Patrick's Day. We might talk about spring equinox. And of course, we have to talk a little bit about the 25th anniversary of Mythical Ireland, the website. So we'll probably park P.W. Joyce for another week and come back to a social history of ancient Ireland after that. But we'll just deal with those things first. No matter what else, have a great week. Happy birthday again to Lexi and to anyone else whose birthday happens to be either in the past few days or in the coming days. And we'll see you next week. And don't forget, if you're subscribed to the emails, that there'll be a special anniversary sale. Just put it that way on the website if you want to grab something with I was going to say a deposit, not a deposit, with a discount. That would be the time to do it. Anyway, all that remains for me to say at this moment of time is Ichawa, Kolosov, Slán go fóill, agus Tóg go bugé. Last one, as always, very important. Take it easy. And remember, come back next week for more stories, more cheesy dad jokes, and more insights, more shedding of light, new light on the ancient past. Thank you to all the Mythical Ireland Tuatha around the world. It's been an absolute privilege. And, we also need to celebrate 5 years of Live Irish Myths. All happening at the one time next week. What a massive episode that's going to be. Anyway, have a great one. Good night. Ichawa. Tóg go